We're joined by Ali Keel, a Harvard graduate, breast radiologist, wife, and mother of 3 children growing up in Massachusetts. For decades, Allison has built a career centered around caring for others while also raising a family and navigating ever-changing seasons of motherhood. She spent her life pursuing excellence, not only in medicine, but in parenting, leadership, and the way she shows up for the people around her. Today, we're talking about ambition, balance, raising kids through sports, finding purpose, and how our definition of a success evolves over time. Allison, to start us off, who are you? What do you do? And why do you do what you do?
Thanks for having me on. And I guess I was trying to think of what I would say to this question, but essentially I'm a mom and a doctor at this point in my life and a former athlete. I ran track in college. And so, still have that part of my identity, but mainly just a doctor and a mom. And I work part time. So it kind of have my foot in both worlds at this point. And yeah, that's who I am. What was the next part? Why do I do what I do?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So a lot of how I ended up in breast radiology, I think, is my mom was a breast cancer survivor. She had breast cancer at age 31 when I was 2 years old, and my younger brother was 8 months old. And then I have an older brother. So, throughout my childhood, she talked about that a lot. And I don't think I intended initially to end up in this spot, but I think I just was sort of drawn to it over time. Initially, I did general radiology plus breast, but now I just do breast imaging. And I feel like just based on her experiences, I've been able to kind of understand a lot about what people are going through when they come in for different procedures or learning news that might be hard, things like that. So I think that's career wise why I do what I do. Yeah.
No, that's a great answer. And I think it's cool to see. I think Maggie and we've kind of seen the pattern of in these conversations how little moments in early childhood kind of shape the trajectory of your career.
Yeah. Into we like to start off our conversations in the childhood and early years. So when you look back on your childhood, who were you or how would you describe yourself before all the titles and accomplishments that you've had in your life?
Good question. I think, you know, I'm I have 2 brothers, an older brother and a younger brother, and so I'm always telling my kids, our house was pretty crazy growing up. It's very different than our current household. I don't know, they just joke around a lot, make fun of me as I was growing up. And we both it was both ways, but, it was just kind of I think I was always a quiet kid, but, pretty resilient because of living in that household. And I love my brothers, they're awesome, but, it just was it's different than having sisters. So I think that kind of made me, a little bit tough. Also, as an athlete too, I was always trying to keep up, on the playground, playing soccer with the boys, and we would have races. I think I first learned that I was fast in elementary school. We would have races on the playground, and it was fun to beat all the boys. I think those experiences, when I think back to it was a really happy time. I really loved my elementary school, but the thing that kind of made me tough and able to deal with things later in life are just kind of growing up in that atmosphere, and also just not to take things too seriously. Just because my brothers and they're both pretty funny, but they I don't know. They just have different perspective on life than I do, and so I feel like that's kind of kept things in check for me. So as far as growing up, that was me. I was more of a sporty kid. I played soccer throughout my childhood and in high school, and then I ran track in high school and college, and for 2 years beyond. And I think I actually even tried. So I really liked soccer, and I tried to walk on the team when I got there, and I don't know what I was thinking that I could possibly do both, but because track is indoor and outdoor season, and there's a lot of training in the fall. I think things have changed drastically, but anyways, I did not make the team. I played JV my freshman year, and then that was how I've met some of my best friends. So, anyways, I guess I was a pretty sporty kid, quiet kid. I was school, and yeah, so I went to public school until 5th grade, and then 6th grade on, I went to Milton Academy, and from then on, I went to Harvard. So I don't know how far you want me to go, but eventually, I'll, get into how it led to later things. But I think that's a basic background of my family. I was the middle girl of two boys, and my mom used to describe me as the rose between two thorns, which is not very nice to my brothers. But again, I love them, but they're just they're funny. So yeah, that's a basic my childhood in a quick summary.
That's a good job. And you mentioned too that you were different than your brothers. So what do you think success looked like to you, or what drove you or motivated you, and how that maybe
Yeah,
differed?
it's interesting. I guess I think about this a lot because of how intense parenting has become these days because I never felt the pressure from my parents in any way. I think they wanted me to do well, but it wasn't coming from them. It was something internally, and I don't know, is it just part of who I am? It's something I think about a lot. But so I think that shapes a lot of how I am as a parent. And I think back about they were always very supportive, but never why didn't you get an A? It just wasn't, that's not how it was. I guess for me, I'm just a person that was self driven and I can't really put a finger on where that came from. But
For our next question, you've spent your life pursuing excellence as a mother, a leader. So looking back, what has that pursuit of excellence cost you and what has it given you in your life?
yeah, I mean, so I don't know where to start with this question, but I think I look at you guys and I kind of see myself at that age. I just turned 50, probably half my life ago I was you, right? And I graduated college and I feel like it was really hard for me to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. And so I worked for 2 years before I went to medical school, and just because I wasn't certain that that's what I wanted to do. But I think it's hard because when you're capable of doing things you're capable of performing at a high level or what, everybody wants you to do a lot of different things, and so you sort of have to make sure it's what you want. And so I think for me, I think I thought about this most when I was in medical school, when there were a lot of sacrifices I had to make in terms of, just you have to work really hard. You're up nights. You don't have much of a life outside of what you're doing. And so I was sort of constantly questioning, is this the right thing? And it was hard because, in your 20s, you're sort of I always knew deep down I wanted a family, but I was not meeting the right person. I was not, it was just, am I going to end up going through all of this? And in the end, I'm single and I have no, I've given everything up, but, fortunately it didn't end that way. But I think that finding that balance is hard in a lot of entry level jobs or whatever career you're going into. The hard work is upfront, in terms of building your knowledge, building your skills, putting in the hours to prove your reputation or whatever. It's just kind of how things are set up. So it for me, I did give up a lot during those years, but I guess if I just knew at the time, it was all going to work out, then I would have just relaxed a lot more. So yeah, when you're capable and you're very driven, you can kind of get locked in and just lose sight of a lot of things. So I think it's it's important to kind of keep asking yourself, is this what I want? Or is this what I should do? So I think, and it's not always easy to answer that question. So
Totally. Especially when you have you know yourself that you're capable. So then there's the pressure on you personally. And then other people around you know that you're capable and you see yourself compared to other people who are also capable and what they're doing. And I think I don't know if you experience that, but there's the individual pressure and then there's the social pressure and the kind of people around you to kind of muddy the waters between am I doing this for myself because it's what I wanna do or because it's what I think have the ability to do. So I think that's a really hard time of life, but curious what your thoughts are there if it was just purely your own kind of pressure.
yeah, so I actually graduated and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was pretty lost. I decided I was just going to go get my EMT certification. And so I was over the summer, took a course to get my EMT certification and then started interviewing for EMT jobs. I thought that would give me some idea, do I really like this? And in the end, I ended up getting a job working in a lab doing research. So I did that for 2 years. I also had this desire to keep running. I think it's hard to let go once you're so in it as a college athlete, or, it's been part of your life for so long, like, it's hard to lose that after you graduate. But it was a weird time. I lived with a friend from college who I love. She's awesome, but you I'm like having this big community where all your friends are there, you have the dining hall, you're eating with them every day, like, you're not worrying about rent, like, you don't have a 9 to 5 job. Like, after college, it was like, okay, I'm at work all day, like, and then these practices would, like, end at 10 o'clock or whatever. And so I was training, but it was hard to fit it in with work. And it just it was not the same as you can never like get back that college experience. But anyways, I did that for 2 years. And during that time, studied for the MCATs, ended up taking them and doing the applications and deciding that I did want to go to med school. And so it was not a straight path for me. It took a while to figure it out. And I'm happy where I ended up, but it was, I don't know. I was running and with a club team and still competing. And I remember just my dad saying to me, like, that point in Field of Dreams where the baseball player has to like step off of the field to become the doctor and then he can't go back. I don't know if you've seen this movie. Like, I love Field of Dreams, but it's like this guy, Moonlight Graham, who's playing with the baseball players and it's like this sort of like dreamlike field. But once he has to save the little girl who's choking on a hot dog. And then he realizes he can't go back. So, like, that's just what he was meant to do, right? Like, he's just moving on to the path that but I remember my dad being like, it's kinda like that. Like, maybe that's, you're meant to go on to help people or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I think it's not you know, it's not simple. Life's not simple, and it's hard to know, whether you're making the right choice. There's a lot of times when you have 2 paths and you have to just choose one and see where it goes. And so I guess it's sort of been like a circuitous route for me. And then once I entered med school, it was like med school straight into residency, straight into fellowship, total of 10 years of my life. And it's like, it's just, it's part of becoming a doctor, but
Yeah.
it's a lot. So I
Yeah,
think
those
that's
transitioning times I feel like are always tough because it's like, what am I doing? I just have to make decisions, make choices, and it's like you kind of have to just trust that they're guiding you somewhere, but you feel so vulnerable and like uncertain in the decisions that you're making at those times.
right. And like nobody can tell you it has to be your own decision. It's like you can't, as much as you may want them to just like tell you what to do, you have to make those choices yourself. So yeah.
Totally. You also shared with Maggie recently, she said that so much of modern achievement is focused on the individual. When did you first realize that success without connection wasn't enough for you? And how did you begin to redefine what success looked like for yourself?
Hmm. Yeah, like, I don't think I can put my finger on one moment when sort of like success became redefined for me, but I don't know. I actually like lost my mom when I was 30 in like a pretty tragic way. So I was in my first year of residency and she died in an accident, or went for a walk and was hit by a car. That probably, by far the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life, especially because my mom was like my I talked to her every day. Like, she was my biggest support. So I feel like once you've had something like so hard happen like that, then that you kind of look around. And I remember just being like, just sort of like hearing all these conversations, like none of this matters. Like what's it sort of just you have to like reset and see what's really important in life. And also just know, like, again, like, I even just day to day think of like, nobody knows what tomorrow is. Like, we had no idea that was coming. And so, like, you just kind of all these little headaches you may be experiencing, whether it's in your job or whatever, like, it just puts all that in perspective when something, like that happens. And nobody's going to look back and say, like, I wish I didn't work enough, or where I wish I worked more. Like, I feel like when it comes down, and it may be different for different people. Like, for me, it's like having kids, building a family, like that part has been so fulfilling for me that, and I like, my career is also great, but like, it's been a balancing act, like, trying to do the 2. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a sort of like, constantly career-wise, like, trying to decide, you know, how much how much I wanted to be, because I was part-time, like I just wanted to be able to be there for my kids, but I just knew for myself, like I didn't want to just stop everything and be at home with them. I didn't want to give that part up of myself. It's sometimes harder when you're working part-time to, because you're in both worlds. You're kind of like, you're getting it from all angles in terms of emails and people asking for help, or like it's just a juggling act.
I feel like we've talked a lot too so far about achievement and what truly matters. And I remember you also mentioned the book to me, Never Enough. And
Yeah.
one idea that stood out to me there is just the difference between achievement and mattering. And I'm curious too, as we start to talk about raising a family and parenthood, have you ever like tried to help your children understand where their worth actually comes from, and that it's who they are and not just what they accomplish, especially raising them
Yeah.
in Massachusetts?
Yeah, definitely. My kids put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, I don't know if that just like comes from me, but that's always how I was. But I say to them over and over, like, I will never be mad at you, never be mad at you for the grade that you got. Like, I will try to help you. If you like say it, first of all, like a B is a good grade. Like, you don't need to get all A's. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just that we're in this weird world of like grade inflation, and like, life goes on. Like, if you get a B or even a C, like you're going to be okay. And so I make sure to tell them about my own failures in the past, and like, okay, like I got a C in math my freshman year at Harvard. Like, I'm not proud of it, but that happened. And like, I'm still here. I still went on, and now I'm a doctor. So I think like as a parent, like it's pretty useful for them to hear from you that, it's not like, well, one, that it's okay. Like, because I am always amazed at how stuff a couple of my kids will come home and just tell me stories about parents like really getting angry at their children for grades they bring home. And I just can't imagine ever doing that. That being said, like, I have pretty driven kids. Like, I think if they were like, there may be a different scenario where they might need redirection if they're not working harder, they're, whatever. But that just hasn't been the case for me. And so for me, I'm always trying to talk them down from being stressed out. But I feel like as far as like achievement and grades, there is no way around like they're going to, even if you're reinforcing it, they're going to get to school and people are comparing grades. Like, what'd you get on this? Or, like, and so that is going to happen in their world. Like, there's no way around it. So I, as a parent, like, one, I just say, I'm not going to be mad at you for a grade, like, if you are having trouble understanding something, like, we'll talk about it and figure out where to start in terms of going there, or meet with your teacher. Like, teaching them how to kind of advocate for themselves is also huge, because I feel like a lot of parents these days kind of like intervene or try to intervene or make things happen for their kids. And so for us, whether it's a teacher or grade or coach or playing time, whatever, like we always start with, why don't you go to the coach? Like, or why don't you go to the teacher? Like, ask them, what can you do? Like, for the next test, like, this grade is done. Like, it wasn't exactly what you wanted, but like, you know, meet with them and make sure you understand the material. And so I think just teaching them kind of like how to manage function as adults. I mean, they're not adults, but they're becoming, and not stepping in immediately to kind of save them for everything. And that's sort of how, and Pete and I are pretty much on the same page as that with each other as far as that goes. So I think it's work for kids, and I don't know as in like why. I guess I just sort of like constantly amazed at what parents are doing these days. I don't know whether it's in sports on the sidelines or like things that I hear from the kids, but like we have sort of evolved into this like, and I don't know if it's just Northeast or whatever, but it is just so much pressure for these kids to feel that they have to, I don't even know where it comes from, but to like get straight A's to get into whatever college. And like, I just remember, people were saying stuff like that to stuff in like middle school, like, oh, I'm signing up for this club because it'll look good for college. And I was like, what? It's seventh grade. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you should be thinking about college. So, you might try as hard as you try, like, to keep these things out of their world. They're going to, like, encounter this and they're going to hear these things. So you have to reinforce it at home to make sure they know, like, one, it's okay to, like, everybody, makes mistakes. Everybody has trouble with a subject. Everybody, things don't just like the reason you're going to school is to learn. Like it's nobody knows it already. It's sort of like this is what the process is. And yeah, I really did like that book, Never Enough. I think I read that a few years ago, but just helpful in kind of like framing things for me as a parent, but also just like yeah, these kids need to know they matter. No, like it's not about the grade. It's like, what is the end goal here, right? Like maybe you didn't make the team, maybe you didn't get an A in that class, but like it's okay. Like what happens? This is part of the process of learning. Like that you're gonna have failure, you're gonna have hard times, and you need to kind of be resilient, know this, have the skills to get through that. And like when you're caught in this world of like this, you're spiraling in terms of anxiety, like you need to know like life goes on. Like it's so anyways, I think I'm just rambling on at this point, but I've spent a lot of time with my kids just telling them like, you're gonna be fine. And like if you need help, I'm here and like I'm not gonna be mad at you. Like this is your life. You're living your life. Like you're not doing it for me. I've
Yeah.
already lived my life or I am, I'm through that part of my life. So I
Yeah,
think
a
that
couple things stood out to me there too. One, I feel like as long as they're driven, like you said, luckily your kids are driven, and I'm sure that's came from how you parented them too. But if they can just rely on that for the rest of their lives and know that they're going to be up and downs, and that should carry them through. And another thing that stood out too was the idea of being in school and failing and getting bad grades. I think people forget that when they're in school, they're also learning like how they learn. A lot of people don't know the best way that they learn. So those grades are it's a completely outdated system. Like my brother's a teacher right now and it frustrates him even still to this day. It's just outdated. People learn in different ways and can succeed in different ways after this they exit the schooling system. And to that individual piece, they're just growing up in this age where it is all focused on me. It's not always like when you're doing something for others, or you can't post how good of a person you are, if that makes sense. So you can't compare on that front, which I would never want people to compare on.
yeah, I don't know. Social media is like a whole nother, it's hard. I feel like I kept them away from it for a long time. They were off of it all through middle school. It's hard on social media because it is so deceiving in terms of what people's lives really are like. And it's so easy to kind of, see the good times and compare your life to theirs, but you're not really seeing their whole life. And so I do think that it's it's unfortunate that it's such a large part of kids' lives. And I don't, at the same time, it's like I don't want to totally isolate them, right? So they need to, it is what exists in their life right now. So I think just waiting for a time when they're mature enough to like to kind of recognize that and always just sort of like talking about how that's just a fact of what social media is, and
Mm, What community
reminding
service?
what's
Community.
that?
I said, what about community service? Like your view on community service and helping
Oh,
kids
yeah, I
themselves?
mean, I think like that I've found is also really helpful in terms of perspective, right? So when we haven't been there a while, but we've volunteered a fair amount at Cradles for Crayons, and it's a great organization, but it's also just pretty simple. Like we're just packaging clothes, like for whatever department you're working in on that day. Like in the end, you end up with a week's worth of clothes for a child that is in need. And I think those experiences were great because it was like, okay, you're worried about your whether you're getting an A or not, but like some kids don't have clothes. Like they like that actually like you can't see that right now because of the world you're living in, but like, you're very fortunate and volunteering, there's so many great causes, but finding things like for children, that's a great one just because it's so tangible and it's sort of like you have a job, you go there, you do it. And, there were other places we volunteered, but like I do think that community service really, and even just for myself, like just helps you remember. It's hard to
And
fit in sometimes, but I do think it's important for them.
we have one final question on the parenting piece too, just to wrap it all together. But when your children leave home one day, what do you hope that they carry with them? Not, again, not about the achievements that they've earned, but about the kind of person that they've become and the home that you created for them.
If you can find something that gives you a sense of fulfillment in terms of what you're doing day to day, I think that you really are winning. And so I would hope that they can find that and also just maintain connections with family, maintain connections with friends. I guess like that would be my ideal for them and health and happiness and choose good spouses. And, like as the family grows, that we all stay close. So,
I love I love that because I think so many people can complicate life and kind of set all these like bars and standards, but it's really meant to be more simple, and it's like loving your family, loving the people around you, and kind of enjoying the little things in life. So I think having a parent like that who emphasizes the importance on that, it's not common all the time, and I think it probably makes a big impact on your kids and the kind of trajectory of their life. So I love that. We had a question. So at like a young age, you start to kind of form like belief systems and whatnot. And then as life evolves, there's times where there's experiences or events that kind of shift your perspectives. Is there like one certain belief that you've had that you've had to unlearn in order to become the person you are today?
a belief that I had to unlearn. Okay, so I think like one thing that has been helpful to me as I have balanced my career and family, like things are really kind of busy and crazy when you're in a career and you have little kids, but is just learning to say no to things. And that doesn't come easily when you are doing well in school or in a sport or, like you just want to please people in terms of, and so you get to this point where okay, you don't always have to volunteer to be the room parent or like you have to sometimes say no to things. And I think that that took me a while to learn and it's been pretty valuable over time. So just to kind of like know your limits and not just because you can do things, not always be the one that's doing those things, which is again, I say this, but it's like it is hard to make those choices. But I think that's probably the main thing that I've learned over time.
That's a great one. I think everybody can kind of learn a little bit from that. You've also accomplished so much up to this point, but we're still all growing in life. In this season of life, who do you think that you're becoming, and what are you still learning about yourself today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like having just turned 50, like it makes you really like, I don't know, sort of look back and look ahead and wonder, if you're fortunate, you might have another 40 to 50 years. Like, what do you want to make with those years? And I don't know. I don't, yeah, I think I'm in a good spot in terms of like just having a career that's rewarding in terms of like balancing that with my kids. There will be not in the not so far future. I will, be an empty nester, but I do think I will remain connected to all of my kids. So I think just kind of like maintaining who I am and what I've been doing. I don't see myself changing too much, although, I've always sort of like there are things that I got got put on hold along the way. Like I love to paint, I love to draw. Like I don't have time for those things. I imagine like once I have more time, I'll start to, do things that are more creative on the side, and that would be nice to have that opportunity. Other than that, I don't, I don't know what's to come. I'm hoping that just to stay healthy and have a lot of happy moments with friends and family going forward.
Great. And then I hope you're honored. You're the first person that we're going to do this with, but we are going to end every conversation with the same 5 questions. So there are going to be 5. So don't feel like you have to have elaborate answers or just you can do 1 or 2 sentences or however long you want. But first one is, and we're calling these the core 5. So the first one, what's one habit that keeps you grounded?
A habit. Okay. Sleep. If I don't sleep, I'm not good. And like there've been a lot of times in my life that I could not sleep, whether in med school or having little kids keeping you up all night. Like, so I really value that. That's my number one.
And are you pretty good at it once it settles, or do you have to take anything for it?
No, I'm pretty, yeah, I love to sleep. So as long as I'm able to like get in a bed and go to sleep, I'm good. But I do think it's like I can notice a difference in, just the way I think, my mood and everything. So I think like sleep is number one, working out, kind of on the same level, but a little below it. I need my sleep first.
Yeah. I felt that last week I was not sleeping well. I felt a complete difference. So this week on Sunday, I was like, my priority is sleep. Everything else can take a back seat.
Yeah, I think I also just went so long without being able to sleep that now I really value it. So yeah.
This might lead into the next question, but what's one thing you protect no matter how busy life gets?
See, that's a hard one. I mean, I guess I don't know how to answer that. When things are crazy, things, I don't know. I think you just have to, you can't always stick to your routine. So even though you may like to, like, there are going to be times when you just can't. So I guess, I don't know, if I can, like I mentioned, my priorities are sleep, then exercise, and if I can't do those things, then a hot shower or a bath is like what I fall back on. I remember when the kids were little and I could never sleep. I didn't have time to work out, and like our hot water, our boiler broke, and I was like, Pete, you have to get it fixed. Like this is the only thing I have left. I need a hot shower. Like I can't. So maybe that's bathing.
It's good to have some backup options. Exactly.
I guess so.
And
Yeah.
then what's one lesson failure taught you?
Failure. Yeah. I guess just kind of like resilience and knowing that like in that moment you might not recognize it, but it may actually what end up better for you in the end. That like I don't know, just an example, like Pete's company that he was working for when the kids were little went bankrupt and like it was like pretty rough times and actually like in the end he started up a new company with others and that has been like he never would have happened were it for the failure. So sometimes, even though it feels like whatever's happening is awful and you're too close to it to understand that it may in the end be okay. Well, not only be okay, but maybe better. So you have to sort of zoom out. Like I say this to my kids a lot, like it's not about that, like, you're so focused on this one test, right? Like, you just have to zoom way out and take a much bigger look. Like, this is one moment like, in your life. There's going to be so many more tests and so many, even at beyond school, like things that happen in your career. Like, it's just, you can't just focus on that one little thing. So, I don't know. I think I rambled. Sorry.
No, I think something to take from that too is if you do care about something, like if you do care about that test, it's almost a signal that no matter what happens after it, you're going to succeed because you like prepared and you care and you're going to go after the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. You can learn from everything and yeah, but sometimes hard to see in the moment.
Totally. Question 4. Who is one person that has shaped your life?
Just based on like what she did when we were growing up. So like I like having it's not even like I have to think. I just kind of know I know what she did and I sort of emulate that. So yeah, I would say that my mom taught me a lot about just her emotional intelligence was very high. She was, great with people and just caring and kind. And so I think just being raised by her was what made me who I am. And so I'm kind of passing that on to my kids now.
Lovely. And then we talked about a belief that you unlearned, but we're going to end with what's one belief you try to still live by.
Uh, see. Let's see. I'm trying to like think of anything that I haven't said already, but
I know, I feel like we've touched on it.
um, yeah, I mean, I guess just probably just, you know, I mean, this is sort of related to what I just said, but like just knowing that like whatever's happening right now that's hard, it will pass, right? Like it happens a lot in parenting. Like you have to literally teach kids everything, like to eat solid foods, to walk, to like poop in a toilet. Like you have to literally teach them everything. And sometimes it seems so hard, but they're going to grow up and they're going to learn those things. Like you're going to go through, like, like you will. So I guess just remembering or keeping in mind that like as hard as things might be in a moment, like it will pass, and it will, whether you want it to or not. Like time goes by, and things move on, and you will get beyond that point. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I think I have to. It's not always easy to remember that, especially when things seem really really rough. But yeah, so
Great job. Congratulations. You're the first one. 4 or 5.
Great.
thank you. I don't know. They were lengthy answers, but hopefully the next person's a little more concise.
No, those
I
are
love
great.
it.
But yeah.
And our final question for you is, who do you nominate to next to share their story on core?
Yeah, I just was thinking that this person would be awesome to come on. I haven't talked to him yet to see if he's available, but so there's somebody that we met during COVID his name is Shaq, and he's from Ghana. He's a soccer player. He currently plays for Nashville in the MLS, but just like we got to know him, like his host family is our neighbor, and we got to know him during COVID, and he's just an amazing person in terms of like one, what he's achieving, but also just his mindset and his outlook for life, and he's very positive. And so I think it would be great if you could have him on. I just need to check in with him and see if he has the time to do that, but I think he would be a great person.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah.
We're excited about that.
Thank
So
you so much, Allie.
Yeah.
yeah,
That was
thank you guys, and good luck with everything. It's been fun coming on.